Hello, everyone. I just wanted to share something that I realized today about ancient Greek myth, and it's the story of Theseus and the Minotaur. Um, the Minotaur was a son of the wife of the king of Crete. She had basically slept with the prized bull that the king had kept for himself when he was supposed to give it to the gods, and thus the gods punished him by basically arranging that his wife would sleep with the bull and produce a son with basically a bull's head in a man's body. That was the Minotaur. Now, the king of Crete decided to build this maze beneath his palace. Now, this is very important. His palace's name was Gnosis, which basically means secret knowledge, hidden knowledge. And in order to feed the Minotaur, it had to have regular sacrifices. So Athens was the source of the sacrifices. Crete had basically invaded Athens years before and said that, okay, no, they invaded Athens for reasons that may have been just at the time, but that's not important for the story. But they said, okay, we will either destroy your entire city or you can give us seven sacrifices every other year from your population. And Athens decided to accept this deal of providing sacrifices, and it was based on a lottery. They did base it on a lottery. Like if you would, they would draw random names from jars, or they would draw jars. It's not clear in my memory, but basically it was a lottery of sorts. It was random, and seven people would be chosen. Now, this was done every other year in Athens, and Theseus, who was the illegitimate son of the king of Athens, I believe, and he had been cast out for a certain reason, but that's not really important. He didn't know he was the son of the king of Athens, but the king of Athens knew that he was his son after he had given his name that was Theseus. But anyway, Theseus wandered into the town of Athens. He saw this lottery happening. Somebody explained the lottery to him, and he was like, okay, well, I'll volunteer to go as an offering to Crete. And the people of Athens didn't know what the stipulation was, what would happen to them once they went to Crete. They just know that they were sacrifices of some sort, that they were offerings of some sort. So this is what the lottery is based off of. So when Theseus volunteered, once he learned about this lottery, everybody was shocked, like, no, this has never happened before. But eventually, six other youths that people thought was a combination of women and males volunteered, and basically they were about to board the ship, and the king of Athens asked Theseus' name. He said Theseus, and then the king of Athens realized, oh, this is my son, but he didn't tell him that at the time. He just hugged him and hoped he would come back, and that if he would come back, please put on the white sail, whereas they would start off with a black sail because this was a tradition. This was to mark how bad this occasion was, that they would have a black sail on the ship. Anyway, I want to cut the story short. I don't want to give the whole story. So basically, the youths that seemed to be a mix of women and men were actually all men, and they had stuffed weapons within dresses, a lot of them, and acted like women, but they were really just padding, and then there was weapons underneath. So this was Theseus' plan. So whatever would happen, he planned to have weapons and people who would basically wield the weapons. So they went to Crete. There was a mob of angry people. They brought him to the palace. This palace, again, was named Gnosis, hidden knowledge. And the king of Crete basically told them to, well, before the king of Crete told them anything, Theseus was like, okay, is this what goes on here? Is this how bad of a king you are? And the king of Crete got angry. And then that night, before they were put down into the maze with the Minotaur, which was the king of Crete's son, not necessarily his son, but his wife's son, basically, so it's kind of like his half-son. But anyway, the daughter of the king of Crete was smitten with Theseus and provided him with some twine, and thread, and a ball, and this bauble from the deep of the ocean that would glow. and because she was in love with him. When she saw him, she was in love with him. Okay, so they were led down into this maze the next day. There's this big ceremony, incantations were muttered, and all the offerings that were people from Athens were led down into the maze. They're told to go down this ladder and only stop walking when they were told to. Of course, after the grill was closed and above the ladder, they couldn't really see what they were doing. But once the grill was closed above the ladder by the Cretans, and interesting fact, human bones with knife marks on them have been found in Crete, suggesting that there might have been some cannibalism going on there, and not just a few bones, but many bones. Anyway, that might be relevant to the story. I don't really know if it's relevant to the story or the extent of the bones that were found with carving knife wounds, hinting at the butchers basically chopped them up. But anyway, once they were down there, the men took off their dresses, except for Theseus, because he was never displayed as a woman, and they removed the weapons, and everybody was given a weapon, and everybody was told to hold on to this string, or several strands of string, and of course they went throughout the maze, and then eventually Theseus happened upon the Minotaur, and he was asleep, and basically Theseus shot a dart at him, kind of like a small javelin, I imagine. Maybe I could be wrong about that. Some of these weaponry that the Greeks use, I'm not exactly familiar with. But Minotaur woke up, and then he seemed very human-like. He seemed very stupid. He didn't seem to really understand the pain. Like, he didn't really feel it. But he was looking at the dart like, I've never seen this before. Like, what is this? And Theseus realized, oh, he's partly human. He might have a bull's head in a man's body, but whatever's going on in his head is partly human. He's curious about the dart. Ever since he was born, he was thrown down in this pit. Maybe it's wrong to kill him. But anyway, Theseus felt like he had to kill him. So he went about basically trying to figure out how to kill this thing. And he threw the bauble that glowed from the deep ocean that was given to him by the daughter of the king of Crete. And he's like, here, look at this, grab it. And the Minotaur was like, oh my god, this is amazing. He went over to it and was like looking at it. And then basically that's when Theseus stabbed him, and then he led the Minotaur, once the Minotaur was angry, back to the other men that he could hear nearby, and then they all kind of like killed the beast basically in this maze. No, the Minotaur's labyrinth. But the reason why I explain the whole story is that what the Minotaur represents is desire. And in the story there's a whole bunch of bones that the Minotaur is sleeping in, and like people have been sacrificed to this Minotaur for years. And what these bones represent are the virtues that we sacrifice to desire as the years go by. And eventually desire will consume all our virtues and we'll be completely beast. A beast that is inquisitive. Desire is inquisitive. But it will follow whatever shines brightly, whatever catches its gaze. It will go like a beast, like an animal, to basically chase whatever glints in the light, whatever catches its gaze. Desire, whatever enters desire's mind, in essence, desire will pursue. And that's what the Minotaur was. It was basically our mind controlled by desire. It's a beast. It's human-like. It's inquisitive. But basically, its nature is to consume every part of ourselves that is human. All the virtues that could have been greater, that could have progressed. Desire will consume them if we let it. If we let it consume the better parts of ourselves in this maze that is our mind, and the maze represents the mind, then eventually it will consume all the better parts of ourselves. Desire's hunger never ceases. It never stops. It never is satisfied. It has to be fed more and more and more. And eventually, you have to destroy it. Otherwise, you become completely it. You become basically a demon. The way I understand demons is different than like just the Christian duality. But demons are beings of passion. They are very focused on the moment and what they want that moment, and not worrying about the consequences, not worrying about if it can be sustained. They go after it, and it's always things that satisfy the senses. It's never something higher. Thus, momentary satisfaction based on sense desires, sense gratification is very short. So they have to go and feed more and more and more. And this is what desire is within us. This is the Minotaur within the maze of our minds, and it will consume every good part of ourselves, every single virtue that we ever had, if we allow it to. If we allow this Minotaur to wander in the maze of our mind, and we allow our virtues to go down there and spar against desire without helping them, then they will be consumed. Now, the daughter of the king of Crete basically represents our desire to help virtue within ourselves. That feeling that, okay, we can do better. Let's make the better parts of ourselves stronger. So we give basically an element of hope and faith in us, gives the virtues, maybe the king of the virtues, Theseus, and based on the story and the analogy, the weapons and the implements it needs in order to survive the maze and destroy the Minotaur. This is what I realized today. I didn't realize this previously, and I wasn't told this by anyone, but the more I think about it, the more I realize that the Minotaur in the maze that's lost in the maze itself, but will feed constantly and forever, as long as it's fed, which is our virtues it's fed by. That is basically the human condition of desire versus that which conquers desire. Desire versus basically our wings, our feathers and our wings. The things that can elevate us to higher and higher realms, to higher and higher understandings, to higher and higher strengths. We sacrifice those virtues to the Minotaur of desire. It'll consume them, and it'll never be satisfied, and the Minotaur will just wander about the maze forever. It'll never produce anything in our lives when the Minotaur is fed. And if we continue feeding it, it'll never produce anything better in our lives. It'll just consume us, and basically our whole mind, our whole being will become trapped in the maze with that Minotaur of desire that we are born with. And ultimately, the Minotaur is kind of innocent. It's not really its fault, because desire didn't ask to be itself, and it didn't ask to be fed. So it's really ourselves. It's our choosing as human beings to feed it, to allow it to consume the better parts of ourselves that keep it going. So will you feed desire? Will you feed the Minotaur? The virtues from the better parts of yourself? Will you feed it your dreams and what you could have been endlessly? And that's all I got to say. I hope this was interesting to anybody who was watching. And think about this. The Minotaur's desire. Theseus is the head of virtues. And what parts of yourself do you sacrifice to the Minotaur?